Hey, welcome into Rob Wright's Gen X Pop Culture. Uh, this evening, we're going to celebrate one of the most important anniversaries of science fiction history. It's the 60th anniversary of Star Trek, which is actually coming up next month, but we want to go ahead and celebrate it early. For 6 decades, Star Trek has asked us to imagine a future where humanity has not only developed better technology, but also learned to become better people. Imagine that. Um, it gave us a future built on exploration, cooperation, curiosity, diplomacy, and hope. And as part of that celebration, we're taking a look at some of the most beloved films in the franchise. The first four films, especially Star Trek 4, is our highlight tonight. We're also going to talk about a couple of standout Star Trek episodes and kind of what they mean. So that should be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. I think you guys will have a blast. Please feel free to chat with us. We're going to engage with you guys, the audience, and get started next on Rob Wright's Gen X Pop Culture. And yes, I did a movie review because we're reviewing a movie. Anyway, let me bring up my special guest, anti-derivative Jill. Jill, how are you this evening?
Doing fantastic. Yes, I've been celebrating the 60th anniversary of Star Trek all year long, bringing up all the bridge crew members, and so this is a great way to herald in the 60th is to talk about my favorite Star Trek movie, which is Star Trek 4. And in fact, it is my favorite movie of all time. Never mind that it's Star Trek. Yes.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a lot of fun. It's a heartwarming episode. But man, Star Trek, I think, is one of the greatest science fiction franchises of all time. The original series, I think, inspired a lot of people, taught us to think, taught us to have hope. And I think it's one of the great sci-fi franchises that we've ever had. A little bit different than some of the other stuff, but I think it's one of the best. What are your thoughts?
It's exceptional because it's optimistic, and a lot of fantastic sci-fi it showcases dystopias and warnings of what not to do for the future, but Star Trek gives you a guidebook on what to do and how to treat one another and be a team and put aside personal differences to solve problems and survive the most hostile environment that humans or any other alien species could be in, which is space. And so that's a pretty scary place, and they don't make it so scary. And it makes you want to be a part of the crew.
Absolutely. And let's welcome in a few people. SP4H is here. Angular Spanish. Crouching Taylor, Hidden Swift, Michael Beacom, Sig Valdison. Woohoo! FKHC 2005, 1903TX, and AMS 2631 are all in here. And there's several people that have jumped in. They've not jumped in the chat, but that's okay. If you want to chat. Let's see, a couple things. You omitted Star Trek the Motion Picture from the poll. Sorry, I can only fit 4 of them on there. But if it's your favorite, let me know in the comments below. Yeah, we've got a poll. Which one's your favorite, Star Trek 2, 3, or 4? I couldn't fit a 5th choice in. Otherwise, I would put the Motion Picture. If I would put a 6th one, I would have put Star Trek 5. Sig Valdison says, shame Star Trek is dead along with pop culture now. There's always a chance we can revive it. We'll just see what they do. Michael Beacom says, Shatner recently gave an interview saying how amazed he is that a job he did for 3 years has affected so many people in the real world. Yeah, that's pretty cool. What do you think about that, Jill?
It's extremely important to my life and the way that I live my life. It came to my life in my very early adulthood, in my late teens. And yeah, it is a footnote, not a footnote, an entire chapter of my life. And it means so much to me. So yes, Shatner's right. He did affect so many people along with the rest of the crew and everybody who's followed since. I guess we could actually appreciate all the Star Trek we had up until 2005. But since it is the 60th, we've got to focus on the original crew, the original Star Trek that started it all, that said science fiction can be serious and say something important at the same time and be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it did so much. Let's take a look at it. I mean, a lot of science fiction before that in 1966 was kind of children's entertainment. It was considered kind of fantasy. And Star Trek was different because it appealed to both adults and some kids as well. It's very interesting how Gene Roddenberry wrote it and set it up.
Yeah, the only thing comparable at that time would probably be The Twilight Zone, which also had some serious points to make about life and science fiction, but it also did a lot of supernatural stuff. So this is the first time you've got a storyline where you get the same characters every time, and and something really cool happens and makes you think about it. Outer Limits is another one. That's true, Michael Beacom. I I thought of that as soon as I said one of the only other ones, but yes, there were very few science fiction that took themselves seriously. And in fact, the child show that still ended up being a child show was actually elevated because Gene Roddenberry went to the network and showed them Star Trek, but they rejected him because they already had their own show called Lost in Space, and I think they took
Mhm.
Gene's ideas and put it into their show.
Yeah. Lost in Space is great, but I don't think it ever got as popular or as well regarded as Star Trek, though. Um, I love how they wove in the Cold War, the space race, present day issues were told in a future setting, which made it easier to be able to talk about, where you can disguise it as something like Alien, but then you realize what the gist of it is, and it allows people to think and really react and respond. It's very intelligent writing. It approaches you both on a mental level and then also an emotional level when you start to care for these characters. So, uh-oh,
I like
Jill
the
jumped on
relationship is yeah, the relationship between the crew is definitely important. Although in the original series, it was more about Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. It would have been nice if we got a little more from the others, but we got enough to love them all
Oh
and
yeah.
to appreciate what they've done to make the stories interesting and the ideas poignant and very often uh predictive of the future in very real ways.
Yep. Michael Bingham says, I think we owe Lost in Space quite a bit because it gave them an example of what not to do. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, FKHC 2005 says, I think Lost in Space is, oh wait, wrong series.
I missed that one. I don't know what that one's about, but
Me
all
neither.
right.
I don't know. Hey, folks, ask FKHC 2005 to explain that one to you. But let's bring up some of my slides here. Um, I thought that was kind of cool that the Star Trek putting that in the space. I tried to get like a little bit better picture with the whole bridge crew and everything, but every time I tried to do stuff with it, a couple of things tools I was using kept making them a little bit different and changing hairstyles, facial expressions, and everything. And it frustrated everything. So I just put the title in the stars, which I think is great. So
Sure, that works.
and there we have the original bridge crew. The fascinating thing is that I love some of the stories of these characters and how they came to be. Spock. They were concerned that putting an alien in there might hurt the audience or hurt the show, and it didn't at all. He became a beloved character. Of course, Captain Kirk replaced Christopher Pike in the pilot, and William Shatner did a great job. You had Sulu, and Uhura was looked at as a unique character just simply because you didn't have a lot of mixed race in there as well. Of course, Scotty was a mainstay, and then they brought Chekhov later on when they said, "Oh, there are no Russians in your new show," and voila, he gave him a Russian. I thought this was interesting. anything
Right,
to
and at the
celebrate.
same time, satisfying the, monkey craze, the Beatles craze, which turned into the monkeys in the US, and so why don't we have our own? And they gave him this terrible wig, which he hated. Walter Koenig hated this wig so much, and it was actually how, uh, George Takei and him became friends because George Takei was not very happy with them having to share a space, dressing room,
Yeah.
but yeah, they became best friends because George Takei had to go to do the Green Berets and everything, and so he was lobbying for more lines, but he made it late because of the movie. And so Chekhov got all his lines, so Takei actually hated him until he met him, and, I think they're definitely still friends. And over the years, Walter would give him all the rumors, "Hey, Star Trek's coming back as a cartoon," or "We're gonna do a TV show or a movie." And they're all great, they're all wonderful, of course, Spock got the most fan mail, Leonard Nimoy rather, and I don't think, Shatner appreciated that too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Um, the funny thing is just how I heard that the cast really kind of hated Shatner because he kind of took over in a way and was just such a dominant personality in the room.
They mostly had a problem because he would take lines that were, "Oh, this is a really good line. The captain should have this line." And I don't think he was malicious about it. I don't think he realized what he was doing to everybody else. But he did. He did hurt a lot of people that way. And he kind of denies it. And then he sees Galaxy Quest. We talked about that with Fred
Yeah.
Pryor,
Oh yeah. Great,
and he
great
sees,
show.
I don't know who this self-important captain is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who sang better, Shatner or Nimoy? What do you think?
Oh, that's tough. Probably Nimoy.
You think Nimoy? I think Shatner, but then again, Shatner's really talking through it, almost Willie Nelson style.
Exactly. Yeah. But I guess Shatner's more fun.
Yeah. And FKHC 2005 just sent me a thing that yes, if you go to IMDb, there is Lust in Space.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I do
Look,
believe it. I
view
wasn't
it at
denying.
your own risk. Um, all right. So let me ask a question out here, even for you, Jill, and for the chat here. Was Star Trek successful because it predicted future technology or because it imagined humanity becoming better?
I would say the second maybe was the more important one, but the first one was what made the show fun and what actually, oh, they're both important because its prediction of some future technologies actually came true. People would watch Star Trek and invent the cell phone or other
Mhm.
things and other technologies, and we can't do warp drive or transporters or anything, but some of the other stuff was more tangible and
Yeah, I'm still
happened.
waiting on
And
those transporters, doggone it.
yeah, right, I know, but it inspired people to become engineers and communication specialists and doctors and everybody, all the different professions. But also it did show you how to be a good person, how humanity can set aside all of the things that have held us back in terms of, not being so cool to each other. And maybe one day we can become the Federation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I love all the technology, but yeah, I mean, especially with today's society, we're we're not gonna get political, but man, it sometimes it seems so divided out there. And to watch Star Trek again, where everybody kind of got along and we were all together on the same page with the same kind of goal. The only issue is debating what step to take and dealing with whatever they were dealing in what particular episode. Love that. I will say that I've heard and read different things about warp drive technology. That while it's not something like Star Trek yet, they've got the theory on how to create something that could possibly go to warp, but we haven't been able to kind of
Yeah.
perfect that. But I've been
Yeah, the
reading.
problem with, it's kind of you kind of run into a little issue with Einstein's theory and all of that. And
Mhm.
yeah, if you do go into it and you figure out how to create this warp field, what's the what's the cost?
Oh gosh,
How much are the like not just the energy costs, but also how much could you put on the ship? What's the weight? What's the effect on the human body if this such a thing were possible?
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, and transport technology. They've always tried to work on that, but I don't know if that's coming anytime soon. But
Yeah, they said they've done it with particles
mhm,
and but nothing bigger.
yeah, it's interesting, but I don't know where we go with that. I mean, of course, phasers and tricorders and stuff like that. Those are probably more realistic and closer because we do have lasers that shoot stuff. So,
Yeah, you could put an eye out with those things, and you can get in big trouble if you point a laser at an aircraft.
oh yeah, absolutely. Especially if you try to do it in Air Force One, but we won't go into that. Um, yeah, it's interesting. But if we look at the premise of the original series, I think they kept it simple, and they took it as an exploration and adventure. And Jill, I don't know if you knew about like the adventures of Horatio Hornblower that have been around forever was kind of part of the basis for it. But I mean, a 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and new civilizations, and to boldly go where no man has gone before. And by man, they meant mankind at the time. I just think it's very simple, very stated, and it made it um, just you already knew what it was right away.
Yes, that's the concept that Gene put forth, and absolutely the Horatio Hornblower. Although I've never actually read those myself, I did hear about that being the inspiration. Not just that, but also the Navy. The way the Navy works is
Mhm.
also a bit of what inspires how business works on the Enterprise.
Oh
And
yeah,
that
yeah.
brings a very real perspective to it. Not only that, but everybody who had been to war who works on Star Trek, lent their experience that way. Gene Roddenberry and Matt Jeffries, who created the look of the Enterprise, um, created it to be something that could be, uh, you know, uh, comparable to the kinds of crafts that we make in reality.
Yep. And Michael Beacom tells us, yeah, warp drive is possible. Uh, Alcaber's calculation established it. And here locally, there's a professor known who built a basic array. He bent a laser beam with it. Google David Pears. So that's interesting. May have to be something I look up later.
Yeah,
Uh,
Star Trek continues to inspire, and it there's no way it won't continue to do that. And get people to try to make the impossible possible.
yeah, absolutely. And let's say hi to Sylvia, your lovely artist who's come in. Welcome, Sylvia. Glad you could be here. Glad a lot of people are coming in here. So glad to see all you guys. Let's get into some of these characters here. Obviously, one of the center of the show, as we mentioned, Shatner taking all the good lines, was Captain Kirk. He was a reckless hero, but it's only part of the character. He's decisive, confident, and willing to take risks. He's also intelligent, thoughtful, and deeply aware of his responsibility of his command. He understands that every decision he makes can affect the lives of his crew. Um, so, thoughts on Kirk as we kind of break down some of these characters?
An exceptional leader, absolutely, of the crew, and he always knows exactly what to say in any situation that he's in. And he's not just, everybody remembers him for his Kirk fu. He's able to encounter physical altercations, but also he's extremely intelligent. A lot of people forget that part, that when he was a kid, well, when he was in college, when he was a college kid. He was a professor, like he was a sort of like a TA. He had his own classes. Beware going to Kirk's class. He was a walking stack of books. So he's incredibly intelligent as he is strong. And so the combination really makes him somebody who is able to face any situation and why he is the captain of the flagship.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes he's viewed as a rule breaker, but I think the great thing about Kirk that makes him a little bit different is that he thinks outside the box, and I think that thinking helps him to become or helps him to be a great captain as well.
Yeah. And actually also, yeah, exactly. Outside of the box, when you say that, I think of Corbin might maneuver. It's
Hmm.
totally not true. Or Fizbin, also not a real game. He made it
Yeah,
real. And
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, you can think of hundreds of lots of examples. The way he can kill a computer is exceptional.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Do you want to talk about Mr. Spock, who's the second person in our first set of three, and then we'll talk about the rest of the bridge crew. Um, and hit
Yeah,
Spock.
he never wants to be captain. He likes being the supporting crew. He likes being EXO. Even in the mirror universe, he doesn't even want to be captain. This is kind of a constant, no matter what universe
Uh-huh.
you find him in. He is the grounding force of every situation he's in because he takes things logically and he's able to control his emotions. He has them. In fact, they are probably stronger than anybody's on the ship, but he's able to control them and hold them back in order to do what is necessary to save everybody else. And of course, in the movies, it builds up during the TV show, but the biggest axiom, of course, is the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And of course, they flip that on its head for two dramatic effects, and he's just he's his intelligence also is a powerhouse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his calculations, his ability to think, and his discipline without emotion. I think he helps balance us out. Sometimes when Kirk is quick to make a decision, he turns to Spock for data and advice. And sometimes Spock doesn't always agree with everything he decides to, which is interesting. But I think it's fascinating how you got Spock on here, and then the next person of the main three friends and cast is McCoy, and I think McCoy is kind of the different lightning rod. He's more emotional and he's more humanistic. Uh,
And yeah,
Go ahead.
well, so when you bring McCoy into it, that forms your trinity.
Hmm.
So you've got as you said, he's emotional, so he's the heart, Spock's the brain, and Kirk is the body, and together they're pretty unstoppable force of good. And also McCoy brings in a lot of humor, a lot of heart, and is able to spar with Spock pretty well. And there's some of my favorite arguments in the entire series.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like I'm fond of the movies in Star Trek 2 where they're learning about the Genesis device, and they're arguing over the logic, and then McCoy's concerned about, hey, wait, this thing could do what this thing could do to humanity and mankind, is universal Armageddon. And it's interesting to see those arguments brought back in one of the movies. Of course, in the TV show, you had several different arguments that were just fantastic between Spock and McCoy, and then kind of Kirk kind of balancing out between the two. But I think it really helped him to make a better decision based upon the input from both of the those two officers.
Definitely. But in the end of the day, they're all brothers basically. And in Amok time, there is none of that. None of the normally McCoy will be sarcastic to Spock, but when this was something serious, and his life was on the line here. He was honored to be chosen by Spock to be part of that ceremony, of course, that we all know. It's some of the best music ever.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then Shrubby 1989, welcome. Glad you're here. And he says the best comparison I've ever heard between Spock and McCoy came from Nimoy himself. Any interactions between them can be used to rewrite any Abbott and Costello sketch. The most famous being "Who's on First?" Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's directly from his autobiography, I Am Spock, and it is hilarious. It works perfectly.
Jason Love, Doctor Who, mentioned something funny. He says, they did argue over Genesis. They should have switched to Nintendo. That's
But
a good
Sega
one.
does what Nintendo don't.
Yep. Okay. For some reason, I can't. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Go back. Hang on. All right. For some reason, I can't hide that now because it's. Oh my gosh. There we
You
go.
got it.
All right. Yeah, it's just it's all like jumbled in together with new comments and everything. All right, let's just talk about the rest of the bridge crew. Which one do you want to start out with next? Who do you want to talk about?
See, I've talked about all of these over the course of the year, and they're all great. I don't know. It's Uhura was the one I chose to talk about first because she's the communications officer, and though she's in the background, connecting the Enterprise with other alien life forms or Starfleet itself or whoever's down on the planet, she's an essential part of the crew, and some of my favorite parts of her in the original series is whenever Kirk and Spock are on a planet and Scotty is in command, and together she gets to shine more when that happens. It's pretty fun when that occurs. She and Sulu too.
Oh yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. And you know the
yeah.
other thing about it is that she's also very good at translating uh, alien races and alien languages.
I don't know,
So that's
man.
specialist.
She had to pull out that Klingon book and in the movie, and that was a little bit silly. But
Yeah.
the best thing she does is she's also a bit of a scientist in terms of engineering because she can rewire the entire communication station, which is
Mhm.
a thing that they have to do in enough
Yeah.
time. And I love that too.
Yep.
So she's
She
multi-talented.
Yeah, she does. She does a lot of great stuff. And yeah, I mean, she knows how to run a transporter, knows how to do a lot of other things that we don't always see her do. And she kind of gets overlooked sometimes, but I think she's a great member of the cast and a great member of the crew and very valuable. Um, obviously Scotty is the heart and soul of the engineering. He's the miracle worker. He's the guy that keeps the engines running, and he also takes command at times when the main three go on an away mission together. So I think Scotty's more valuable than people realize because he's got both command and the engineering background. I think he sets the standard for your engineer and your chief officer that basically is Mr. Fix It on the ship.
Yes, Scotty is possibly the only one besides Captain Kirk who loves the Enterprise as much as the other does. They
Mhm.
love the Enterprise about the same, and he mean yeah, he is the miracle worker, and he'll tell you it won't take it'll take this long, but then he'll do it in half that time, and that's how he keeps his reputation.
Mhm. Yeah.
And he's extremely loyal and tenacious, you know, and he'll put himself on the line to save the ship.
Yeah. And then we've got Chekhov and Sulu. And I think the thing about it that was interesting was that Sulu was a standard, but then they brought Chekhov in late. And you already mentioned some stuff about Chekhov with the Beatles hairdo, the Beatles monkeys hair wig that he had to wear. What else do you like about Chekhov?
He represents well. he represents a younger bridge crew. He's only supposed to be about 20 years old, 22 years old,
Mhm.
and he's able to bring a new perspective, and he has that enthusiasm from that line of thinking, and extremely loyal to the place he was born for odd, which is odd for some reason because we're all together, we're all connected now on this earth, but still Russia is very important to him. And it's hilarious. I think it's really cute. I love every time there's a those jokes are just incredible, and especially in the movie we're about to watch or talk about, and in Star Trek 4, but it happens through sprinkled throughout the series as well. And he's brave when he's got to be.
Yeah, the nuclear vessels. uh,
Yeah, no,
it's
well, the what makes that funny is that he's not really aware that there's a like I don't think he's cognizant of the Cold War attributions. And so he's genuinely just looking for the power source that Spock told him to.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
everybody else hears it and they hear threat.
Yeah, and it's interesting to look at his career. You have um, the seventh movie, which is the first generation movie, which wasn't that great, but where he's making a comment to Captain Kirk, "We were never this young," and Kirk goes, "Chekhov, you were younger," which is remarkable. And even in Star Trek Two, where we see him in a command role, which is fantastic, where he just has moved up in ranks so much. So he was definitely a go getter, and somebody moved up really quickly. So
And that was because of Walter's insistence himself, because he said, "Isn't it weird that, we've been doing this for so long and all of us are standing still, and we're supposed to be this crew from the future who are achieving great things, and I'm still an ensign." So yeah, of course he's gets a promotion. That's great.
yeah, absolutely. And then you got Sulu, who's one of the best pilots out there. I don't think he gets enough credit for his piloting skills. He gets the Enterprise around some tight spots, and I think he's a great character. He has some interesting lines and interesting things with him, but I think he got overshadowed in some of the movies. But he became a captain. It was good to finally see him get promoted as well. Speaking of promotions, but yeah, he was a valuable member of the crew.
Definitely, yes. His favorite. It is no surprise that George Takei's favorite Star Trek movie is Star Trek 6. He considers that the Captain Sulu movie, where he gets to save the day and come into the rescue.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely. He eventually got what he had been wanting the entire time. And of course, he's an excellent pilot. And as you say, get him out of any difficult spots.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like that he likes to keep time. He's the counter. He
Yeah,
does
and he's
that.
also technically the security officer, isn't he?
Is he security? Maybe in some cases. Yeah, because there is no dedicated, you know, um, tactical officer. So those kind of things have to fall on Chekhov and Sulu. So sometimes Sulu's manning the lasers or photon torpedoes. Sometimes it's Chekhov, whoever's got the lines at that moment.
Yeah, they both kind of traded off, I guess. But it's interesting. I love the setup with the bridge, how they've done it. And then I don't know, real quick, just as a side note, I don't know if you've seen stuff from San Diego Comic Con that they came out with the 1/4 inch scale Enterprise bridge, where they've got the whole thing in sections and they put it all together and it's like the whole bridge and you can see it's like this big circle. It's got everything, all the stations that you can imagine, everything. It's so cool, Jill.
I
I don't know.
heard about that. I heard you can even buy it. You just need
Mhm.
$2,000.
Well, to get the whole thing, yeah, they said a lot of people may not get the whole thing; that they'll get just components of it, but still.
Oh, unless you're talking about the nacelle company. I don't know what the price of that is, but somebody's making one outside of that. That's 2K. That's light up and everything.
Oh wow, That'd be awesome. Make something to slide up. I could just get our buddy Sean Carter to help us out with that if I wanted to do that, though.
Right. Well, and if I wanted something crazy like that, I'd want to turn it into a coffee table where I could remove the top if I wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, how awesome would it be to have like a coffee table and it's kind of glass on top where you look down and you see the bridge and you have all your characters in there and you have whatever scene you want. And then if you wanted to change it, you could there'd be a way to lift up the glass so you can go in and rework figures, but then you have kind of a coffee table with the bridge of the Enterprise. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yes, absolutely. And Sig Valdison is saying Lego put out a bridge of the 1701 costing $200. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get that, but that's pretty cool too.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right, let's get into a few of these episodes. Now, it'd take forever to discuss all of them, including a lot of our favorites, but we're just going to mention some that kind of were impactful during the time, that were interesting. And we're going to talk about actually my favorite Star Trek episode first. And it's actually my dad's favorite episode as well. See on the Edge of Forever, where it deals with love, sacrifice, and terrible burden of knowing that history must unfold in a certain way. My goodness, this episode had a lot that it dealt with.
Yes, and this one is in my top 10. I give it number 7, but it's very spectacular. I love it. It's a great time travel episode that definitely pulls at your heart and your imagination. And it's a great story. Harlan Ellison might not have liked the way it was changed. His story was changed, but they had to because his story wasn't Star Trek. So they took his great imaginative work and turned it into Star Trek. That's the magic of the writers on Star Trek and how they didn't just let the writers who came in do whatever they want. They said, we have this Bible, this show Bible with these specific rules to make this Star Trek, and that's what they did. That's why it is so beautiful. And all they had was, stone knives and bear skins. They did
Yeah.
they did
Yeah, I
the magic
think
there.
it's interesting. Interesting how it starts with McCoy kind of accidentally getting that dose of medication and kind of going crazy and then ending up on that planet and then just jumping through the Guardian to Forever. I thought it was interesting how the fact that this character went back in time and his presence there started to affect the the way the time flowed, and then Kirk and Spock decide they need to go rescue him, which is just awesome. They meet Edith Keeler, which is really cool and really interesting, and um, it's just fascinating to put them in kind of the Depression era United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you mentioned this one because I do think about Star Trek 4 along with this episode, and yeah, they're both the best time travel stories in Star Trek. And yeah, it's about making difficult decisions because for the best of everyone, unfortunately. Although I will say that they could have brought Edith Keeler to the Enterprise, and she could have been part of the crew, and that wouldn't have messed up the timeline. But okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's
okay.
interesting. She would have fit in our world, but they
Mhm.
decided to do that later on with somebody else. So
Yes, that's right, that's right, that's why I mentioned Star Trek 4.
yeah, yeah. I read Harlan's episode. It was not Trek. Sorry, Harlan, you were wrong.
Yeah, too bad,
Yeah.
like, he does a good job, but you just have to realize you're not making your own TV show, you're writing for another TV show, and that show has to have its own continuity,
Oh yeah,
but he couldn't
absolutely.
get it.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting. Edith Keeler must die, and um, I just love the ending. Spoilers if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing watching this? But but how Kirk has to basically stop McCoy from trying to save her too, and he knows Doctor. I mean, it's just it's just incredible. And then I can't talk about City on the Edge of Forever without mentioning. an idea that my dad and I kind of had about the perfect ending for Kirk is that Kirk would jump back into his former life and relive his glory days in the Guardian of Forever. So that's just an idea or a thought we always had. So.
That's a great thing about this episode is because it's not just any episode that makes you want more or makes you imagine different stories that emanate from it. And of course, this isn't the only time we see the Guardian of Forever. We see it again in the animated series in my favorite animated series episode, Yesteryear, to great effect. And also it's in lots of novels and things. And so it definitely inspires that kind of thinking.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it was brought up. It was originally they wanted to use it for different movies, and it got kind of scrapped. I believe some thoughts on Star Trek Six was originally going to use the some of that, and Star Trek Two possibly was a thought on that because they wanted to bring it all back to Kennedy and the magic bullet and the Klingon and all that. So kind of crazy how they could have used it. But I wish they would have seen the Guardian of Forever in later series. I wish Next Generation would have visited it or would have had something with it, because I thought that was really good. So all right, the next episode we want to talk about is Balance of Terror. And I thought this was interesting. This is almost like real naval submarine warfare, where I think you really have the writers on the show who did participate in war and were in the Navy really helped write this one and set an interesting tone for it. It introduces the Romulans and explores the dangers of prejudice. It also presents conflict from both sides, showing the Romulan commander is not a simple monster, but a soldier trapped by duty. And of course, Mark Leonard plays the Romulan commander. He also played Spock's father as well. So, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, he's also a Klingon at one point.
Yeah.
Mark Leonard is incredible. He should have got an Emmy at some point.
Yes, he should have.
Greatest crime of humanity there. And yes, this is actually based on real submarine battle movie, and definitely it one of the most incredible Star Trek episodes. And so much so the Romulan commander comes to respect Kirk, and in another life they could have been friends. That it's a really powerful ending to right before the commander is comes to his end, because he won't accept you can't, if you're losing, you can't, that's the end of you as a Romulan. So it's not like Kirk could have saved him or anything.
No,
And
not at all.
that's the tragedy of being a Romulan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were honor bound, which is interesting. Interesting that they kind of share those same traits with the Klingons, except it's a little bit different. It's not as intense, which is fascinating. And it's fascinating to see a different culture. The other cool thing about this episode is that that you got to see Romulans and you got to find out their relationship to Vulcans, which is kind of cool.
It's shocking to, like, if Spock's ever looked shocked in his entire career, that is it. That's the moment. And they of course make it use the perfect eyebrow raise for that. And it also shows an interesting perception on prejudice. Leave your bigotry in your quarters. There's no room for it on the bridge. And directly to Styles, because Styles had lost family in the Romulan War, and so he had some anger towards them without even knowing who they were.
Yeah. And I was disappointed that like Enterprise later on didn't get to the Romulan War, and we didn't get to see that. Of course, the problem with it also with doing the Romulan War is that you're still dealing with people that fought a war without seeing each other, So, which is fascinating though. But yeah, I thought it was interesting how they did this and how they showed both sides. And if you really start to think about it, it really helps you understand humanity, and that things aren't always what you think they are, in a way.
Mm, yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, and Joseph says, yes, Balance of Terror is based on the movie The Enemy Below. There it is.
yeah, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea ripped off that film too. So yep, and Joseph Cabadas says says yes, he confirms it. So very
And
cool.
then there's also the very basic element that you have there in one of those pictures of the wedding. They were
Mhm.
trying to have a wedding, and the whole tragedy of the entire thing is the only crew member they lost was Tomlinson.
Yeah, Tomlinson. So very interesting how that happened, and it showed kind of what life was like on a starship. That it was not just you had these people living together and they did other things besides just work the whole time on the ship. So very interesting stuff. But yeah, I thought this was a great episode. I thought it really uh, engages you and forces you to think differently. And it's so interesting that it shows another side of people. And it's so amazing that we got such great writing here, and they didn't have to come out and do anything to make it. They just set it in a space thing, and then people got it. People understood it. You know, they related to the characters. So, all right, the next one that we're going to talk about is the Doomsday Machine, and this episode's interesting. Jill, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, that's another one that's in my top 10. Let's see which number it is because I do have a list here. Doomsday Machine was my number. Whoop, somebody's hungry. Hold on just a minute.
That's okay.
Oh, you know what? Okay. Okay, so just okay, so sorry about that.
Oh, no
Um
worries.
oh gosh, this is an incredible episode. We've got a mysterious alien robot. I think I love the mystery of this planet eating robot
Mm-hmm.
more than anything. And we never really know where it comes from, which of course it inspires lots of novels and comics that try to decide what happened there and why it was sent out to do these terrible things. But it's unstoppable, and unfortunately, Decker's crew is destroyed by it, and his decision making makes it worse. And then he blames himself and goes mad from that tragedy. And this sometimes a Star Trek episode is made by the guest actors, and in this case, William Wyndham did an incredible portrayal of a tragic Starfleet officer, and who who the Enterprise crew have to deal with. They have to deal with this guy taking over command of the Enterprise, which is extra scary because you think,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, this is it. This is it. There's not going to be a Star Trek episode next week. This guy's going to ram it right into this this robot, this doomsday machine, and cornucopia of madness. And oh man, the and Scotty does an incredible job in this episode
Oh
also.
yeah.
So he's got a big role there.
Yes, he does. And the other thing about it is that no, not a lot of people were familiar with Navy rank, and uh, Commodore is above captain, and then admiral's above Commodore. And I think they got rid of Commodore after I think a couple episodes after this one, because you really don't see it very much in the Next Generation or in any of the movies. But it's really interesting how he takes over the ship, and this episode deals with obsession, loss, and weapons of mass destruction. So this is kind of a take on the Cold War at the time and the height of the we had the Cuban Missile Crisis a few years before. You had nuclear proliferation with the arms race building up between the Soviet Union and the United States. And this was a metaphoric way to deal with it. And I thought it was really fascinating. So Michael Bingham says, great quote. Not with
Sorry,
my ship, you not.
I have to step away briefly. I will be back as soon as I can.
Okay. All right. Cool. No worries. But yeah, this episode's interesting. Folks, I don't know if you guys read the novels, but as a kid, one of my favorite novels that came out was a Next Generation novel called Vendetta. And Vendetta basically dealt with the Borg. And one of Guinan's race, it was originally supposed to be Guinan's race, a member of her race built the Doomsday device to attack and kill the Borg and get rid of the Borg. And I thought that was pretty awesome. A lot of interesting stuff in that novel. James Castera, gentlemen, I suggest you beam me aboard. Yeah, Kirk goes to try and stop the other ship from, it's on a collision course, and he's going to direct it right into the thing. And he's like, gentlemen, get me out of here. So Michael Bingham says, cornucopia, everyone makes this a mistake. It's supposed to be a very long cylinder. They try to simulate this by tapering it down, but it's not supposed to be that. It's just miles and miles. Yeah. Forced perspective. Yep. And apparently, according to Vendetta, it was designed to be able to destroy multiple Borg cubes all at once and take on the Borg without the Borg being able to absorb it or change it. That's why it doesn't have any like humans in there or anything that they could assimilate, apparently. So, and then that Vendetta also deals with being able to travel at speeds beyond. At the time, they didn't think anything over warp 9 would just be lost in a time vacuum or something like that. So, but yeah, such an awesome.
Also, what are the chances? What are
Go
the
ahead.
chances that the creators of Star Wars watched Star Trek and thought, "Hey, a planet killing machine, huh?"
Oh yeah, probably George Lucas. A planet thing. What if I made it stable on a moon? Maybe that would work. So, but yeah, very cool. Did you ever read the novel Vendetta?
Not yet. I am sorely lacking, dragging my feet on reading all these wonderful, wonderful Star Trek books.
Yeah.
But yeah, the windsock. It was made from a windsock, James Kazar. True story.
Yep, a windsock. All right, next episode we're going to talk about is one of the most famous ones, Tribble of Tribbles. So this one shows Star Trek can be funny without abandoning its characters, which I thought this one was great. I thought it was also funny how DS9 went back and revisited this as well. Obviously, the scene where Kirk opens the containment fields with all the grain and out fall all the tribbles, as shown over here in the pictures. But Scotty is just outstanding in this. And then you hit the Klingons. No. What did make you hit the Klingons? They called the Enterprise a garbage scow. Scow.
It wasn't that they were insulting the captain. They insulted the ship.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had to think of his pride on that one. And he was even okay when he had to be reprimanded for it because it gives him time to read his technical manuals.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sigvaldson clears up the Commodore was mentioned in Star Trek: The Next Generation. They merged it into Admiral 1 Star. So, but yeah, it's interesting because it deals with Klingons, and you still have kind of this fight between the two on a space station that's kind of neutral. And the important thing is the grain. And it also kind of deals with the prejudice in a way because you're looking for you're blaming one side versus the other when it's really the tribbles that are eating part of the grain, only to find out that there is a saboteur and it was poisoned. So,
yeah, and the quadritriticale. Does everybody know about this grain except me?
Yeah.
And of course, it's just this is one of the greatest episodes. This is lots of fun, lots of heart, and I love it. I love it very much. It's pretty cool. And Cyrano Jones,
Yes.
also a great character, funny, makes a comeback, and also in the animated series.
Mm-hmm. Yep. When they do, I think in the animated series, they beam all the tribbles to the Klingon ship.
Yeah, they do, and it's just this one giant tribble, and when they zap it, it turns into lots of little tribbles. And you're mentioning trials and tribulations, so it was really Cisco and Dax hurling the tribbles at Captain Kirk in that scene there, where they while they were looking for the one that was going to explode.
Yes, absolutely. And I thought it was funny how they got the actor who was older to come back and play the same villain, who was an altered Klingon agent, which was kind of cool.
Mhm.
But yeah, they don't like you, you know, which is interesting. So
Yeah, yeah, and that hatred between the tribbles and the Klingons manifested later in that they talked about it in the trials and tribulations, the Great Tribble War that they had.
yeah. I love how Worf is like, that is a tribble. Um, and they even mentioned how Klingons look differently. And Worf is like, we don't talk about it. So,
Well, and I
uh,
think my husband might be a Klingon because I sometimes have my tribble next to me, but then when it gets into the wrong spot and it makes him mad, he throws it, and then I can't find it.
so yeah, I thought about playing a joke on buddy at work and buying a bunch of those tribbles and putting them in his on his desk because he's a big Star Trek fan like I am. But thought better of it when I saw the price of buying multiple was a little bit much for what I wanted to do for a joke. So um, being tribbles on a Klingon ship, think of all the horrible things that were done to them. Every kind of, yeah, that's true. But
James, the Great Tribble Hunt. Thank you, James Caserta. I
yes,
knew it was something like that. I got close enough, but
yeah,
yeah, that's a lot of fun. And that line, that'll be no trouble at all. That was James Doohan's idea.
yes, there'll be no trouble at all. uh, awesome. All right, the next one we're gonna go over is Amok Time. I mean, it gives you a new culture, Vulcan culture, which, according to Leonard Nimoy, was kind of a span of ancient Hebrew culture and Egyptian culture, I believe, is kind of the combined. Was there anything else about Vulcan culture that I'm missing, or was it mainly those two?
Well, that is a huge part of it. This episode is the first episode with the Vulcan salute, which definitely comes from from Jewish culture and
Uh-huh.
from the time he was watching a prayer, yes, like that with two hands. And so he took that from his childhood. He wasn't supposed to be watching, but he peeked and he this is where he drew it from. And the director actually asked for that. He asked him, "Hey, come up with a greeting for Vulcans," and he's then that's why Nimoy is such a big part of what makes Vulcans Vulcan, and this definitely expands the world. It's a character expansion, and also the species of Vulcans grow here. And we find out how important Spock's family is. These high politicians are actually his family members, and he, of course, he never talks about it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then we find out about his physical needs,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah,
interesting. And we
yeah, I'm
find
very
out,
sweet there.
yeah, yeah, which is it's been a joke for a long time. And then we find out that he was betrothed as well. And at first he's kind of angered that she would bring this, but her logic is actually sound. It's like you're either going to reject me and then she'll have Stan, or you'll fight for me and then reject me. Either way, she would have Stan. The
Still just a wild way to have a divorce, though. We
yeah,
can't just talk about this.
Yes.
You gotta have a fight to the death, and because and no, you can't just talk about it because he's undergoing these massive biological urges. Either they're satiated or he has to have a fight to the death, and one of the two happened when he thought he killed his captain, and that's what ended his fanfare, fortunately. And fortunately, of course, he didn't, thanks to the genius of McCoy, who just happened to have the right medicine in his pocket.
Yep. Which is just awesome. I love it. And the fight between them is so great, well choreographed. But the best part about it is when he gets beamed back on there, and Spock saying, "Doctor, when we get to this, put me under in the brig and all this," and Captain Kirk's like, "You may want to ask me for that." And then you see Spock go, "Jim," and he's very excited to see him, and McCoy just chastises him, and he says, "It's merely the logical response to seeing my friend alive."
It this finally shows you just how emotional Vulcans are, because maybe
Yeah.
they said it before, but this is where you really see it. He's going bonkers, throwing soup on the wall, and and getting angry, and so this finally shows how what happens when he can't control his emotions. And at the very end there, that scene you're talking about, I think that's probably the after effects of it. And yeah, McCoy teases him a little bit about it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Michael Bingham
it's
says this
wonderful.
episode is best McCoy reaction ever. To Paul says to the death, and McCoy's face is so I told you so.
Yeah, definitely. And by the time she says that, he'd already agreed to do everything. So he got first she's like, "Oh, you don't have to do this. You really don't have to do this." And yeah, right. McCoy is instinctually aware of the danger that this is going to be dangerous, but Spock, I mean Kirk, not has to do this because this is his best friend, and he's been asked to do it, and there's no going back for him. He can't turn he can't turn away from Spock, or his extremely influential family that who actually gets them out of the pickle at the end, because technically Kirk is disobeying orders. He was supposed to, take this medicine, and and instead he's doing this, and but she gets him out of trouble at the end just with the little phone call that we get from her at the end.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Kirk chooses the danger here, and McCoy later on would choose the danger to save Spock. So, all right. So, next episode, I believe you said is one of your favorites, The Devil in the Dark.
Devil in the Dark is my number one favorite Star Trek episode because it has absolutely everything that you can need. The entire trio get incredible moments of um, thought and introspective nature. It's just every bit of what makes Star Trek special to me is in this episode, and it seems like a horror movie with this horrible creature killing miners, and it actually turns out to be a mother trying to protect her babies from people who are killing her babies. And so then and she's the only lady in the episode, and I do not mind. Do not judge by appearances alone. Don't expect just because you're human that you're a hero. And so that is exactly what Star Trek 4 is also about. So my favorite
Mhm.
episode ties very closely to Devil in the Dark in that regard.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's this Horta creature that the miners uh, keep running into, and it keeps killing the miners, and they think it's something that's a threat when it's really the miners that are the threat, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
they're the ones who are invading, and it's a little bit like Arena in that space too, where were we the ones intruding on them?
Hmm. Yeah, and I just love how Spock has to mind meld with it, and you find out that what they're mining for is really her eggs, and they're killing her babies. So,
Mhm. And that she is very intelligent. So
mhm.
that's also why she's such a force to be reckoned with. And in some novels, I think, and there's a novel, I think Spock's World, that makes a Horta member, an engineer, I think. I'm not sure. I gotta read it myself, but I love the idea of a Starfleet officer being a Horta.
Yeah. Michael Beacom says Devil in the Dark is why it is hard to work for Kirk. Spock starts with restraint, and Kirk is shoot to kill, and they find out that Spock is kill it captain, and he's not so fast. So yeah,
Well,
basically Spock tries.
I think that's because they learn from each other. Kirk realizes something, that the Horta is not instantly trying to attack, and that, well, from all the reports, it just seemed like this monster that was killing everyone, but when he actually meets up with it, he recognizes, I think he recognizes the intelligence from it and changes his mind. And so Kirk has the wisdom not to kill, and Spock communicates, and McCoy has the brilliance, and he makes the joke, because this is silicon-based life, that, I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer. But he actually does, and the best part of that is that he becomes a bricklayer and saves the Horta's life. And then
Yeah.
the miners, the best part is the end, because it's just, now that they know that they were hurting the Horta, they they become symbiotic. And
Hmm.
so the Horta helps tunneling for the crew, for the miners, and the miners, you know, leave her babies alone now. And I like to imagine that they work more together, that it gets a little more deep than that, and they begin to learn to communicate with each other. And a lot of novels agree with me if they're making them, Starfleet officers later.
Yes, and it's just interesting how you judge a book by its cover, but when you finally find out that this what's happening, and you get the Horta to actually work with you and for you, that she can dig tunnels more efficiently and effectively than the humans can. That's fascinating. A great way to really communicate and tie it up. Now, did you hear about the practical joke that kind of Shatner played on Nimoy during this?
Yeah, I heard that he did mimic what Spock's, because actually it starts with kind of a tragic thing, because during the filming of this, his dad had died, William Shatner's, and he had to go and deal with that. And when he came back, he had missed it. He had missed Spock's scene, and he said he was curious about it, and he wanted to see it done so that he could do his lines based on what Spock does. And so Spock does it. He does it as seriously as ever, as he probably did for the film. And yeah, then he plays the joke. But I think you might remember the details a little better about how the joke really went.
Yep, no, you set it up beautifully. So basically, Spock performed the mind meld, and he's crying pain, pain, pain. And when the director yelled cut, Shatner ad libbed, "Get the Vulcan and aspirin."
Yeah. Yo, Leonard Nimoy hated that.
Yeah, while the crew laughed, Nimoy was initially furious, believing Shatner was ridiculing his serious acting.
Mhm.
So I thought that was funny. I mean, he's yelling pain, 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 and get him an aspirin.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So, but yeah, I mean, that was a great. Uh, yeah, I mean, Shatner thinks he's hysterical. But yeah, so yeah, this was a
He
great
does.
episode. Go ahead.
Well, right. I mean, the Horta is intelligent.
Hmm.
She's only known these humans for a brief amount of time, and immediately she knows how to write. No kill I. That's incredible. She's the
Hmm.
best.
Yep. And the last episode we're going to talk about, I wish we could talk all about all of them, but a lot of these are kind of ones that have the philosophical and societal impact. Is Taste of Armageddon, which presents two civilizations that made war clean and computerized. forcing viewers to confront the true hero of sanitized violence. And this episode, I hate to say this episode gets scarier and scarier as we get more and more advanced with technology.
Yes, when we had the opening of the show, this episode came into mind, but I didn't want to get too dark too fast because this is all too real today, unfortunately, because it's all about fighting enemies that you don't even know. You don't even see them, you're not even talking to them, there's no communication really. They just decide, "Hey, you're supposed to die today. Get into the suicide booth," and everybody just does it.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't question it until, of course, Captain Kirk shows up to tell them why this is not such a good idea.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's interesting how he kind of basically forces everything and forces both sides to actually use real weapons, which they haven't used in years. And the fact that the war is prolonged. So it was a very much a stance on the Cold War and what was going on at the time in the 60s, which I thought was fascinating and it makes it interesting. But the problem is that you've got different people with different ideas nowadays that may try to incorporate this for population control and other types of stuff that just really scare me, you know? So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It is, basically, if you have this kind of system in place, you can keep people from destroying cities and stuff, and so all of the material wealth is still there, it's just people have to die, and that is horrifying. And who's gonna end these wars become endless because that is the consequence of forcing people to do this kind of thing and making them think that they're the better for it.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. So,
And yeah, kill the computer.
yep. All right. You know, chat, what original Star Trek series episode would you show once to someone who never watched Star Trek? Um, would you show one of these, or is there another one that you would show? Which one would you show, Jill?
Well, we talked about all of them already. Those were all great ones. Only after we showed them all the ones that you talked about already would I show them Mirror Mirror, but that one because you have to know the crew first before you care about what they might be like in an alternate universe. But Ultimate Computer is one that I really
Mhm.
love. That I think that is essential. Also, very much like Taste of Armageddon, extremely relevant to today in terms of using computers and artificial intelligence and it's a way that could be pretty scary, especially when it decides that it has its own morality and
Mhm.
that might not line up with humanity.
Yeah, I would think maybe something close to Balance of Terror would be one of the first ones I'd show. I don't know if I'd show my favorite one, City on the Edge of Forever, because I think you still have to know the characters a little bit more before you can show them that.
Yeah,
Michael
Balance
Big,
of Terror is a better one.
yeah, Michael Bickham suggests Where No Man Has Gone Before. Yes,
Oh,
Sig
that's good.
Rollison says Piece of the Action after showing one of these, which I think that
That's
one's
another
great.
one. That's a great episode, but yet another one where you got to know the crew before you care that they're gangsters now.
Yeah. Um, Michael Beacom also says, and the children shall lead, which is a good one too. Uh,
What? Wait a minute. No, it isn't. If I did not like this person, I would start with "and the children shall lead," is what he says.
is that the one? That's the one where they're on the planet where the with the kids, bonk bonk.
Oh, that one's actually a good episode. That's Miri, so that's why you thought it was
Yeah, that's
good.
Mary. Okay.
Because Miri is a good episode, and The Children Shall Lead is not a good episode. Hail, hail, fire and snow, all of that.
Oh, that one. Oh my God.
Heavenly
Yes. No,
angels
never mind.
bring us
Never
so
mind.
far
Yes,
away.
never mind. Yes, yes, yes. That one's weird. I don't know. I think you got to show them something from season one. The Way to Eden. That's considered one
Okay.
of the worst ones. That's
Oh,
the one
that
with
was
the hippies, right?
yeah, it's basically a music video and with well, yeah,
Yeah.
and the planet is full of acid or something, and
Yeah.
that is not so good. And that's the only time you see Kirk's ship being overrun. Wait, no. Actually, it's the second time Kirk's ship is overrun by hippies. The best time, the actual good way to eat it and was already made, and it was called This Side of Paradise
Yes.
by DC Fontana.
Yeah.
And then the third time we see the hippies is Star Trek 5.
Yep. I don't know. Space Seed might be one that I might show because I think that's a complete story that's interesting. Um, and actually, Space Seed inspired Wrath of Khan.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah,
So.
exactly.
But it's interesting. The show only ran for 3 seasons, and it could have ended the story. But the great thing about Star Trek is they did make enough episodes for it to get into syndication, and that's where my first exposure to the original series was. And I'm so glad for that. But syndication really created more fans, which is interesting. And it's interesting the power of syndicated television at the time from the 60s all the way through the 80s and 90s.
Yes, I've talked to lots of Star Trek fans who were there during that time where they watched Star Trek because of the reruns, and they weren't around when the shows first came out, so they wouldn't have known it otherwise. And it's definitely the reason that it became so big. And I hear lots of stories from fans who would you didn't have VCRs, so they would get tape recorders and record directly from the TV. And I love those stories.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, Crouching Taylor Hidden Swift says, I need my theater to show 4 in the theater. I've seen TMP and Generations and
Yeah.
Carbonite Maneuver in the theater. And as far as any movie with any TOS characters in it, oh man, there should be. They do release these on anniversary dates. So be looking for that.
Do me a favor, Matt G. When they show Star Trek 4 in the theaters, just send me a message somewhere because I need to see it too.
I'll let you know when they do, Jill. I think it's coming up on an anniversary this year too. So,
You said this is the 40th?
yeah, it's the 40th. So, yeah. Michael Beacom says, "Yep, I though I watched it from the start. My brother was 6 years older than me, and he sat me down to watch. I found out later he wanted the monsters to scare him."
Well, yeah, yeah. So if they do put it in the theaters, maybe it'll happen in December because that's when this movie came out.
Yep. All right, let's transition. I know we could spend all day talking about how the writing and the animated series and stuff, but we need to get to our motion pictures here and get us caught up before we talk about Star Trek 4 because we got a lot to say about Star Trek 4 tonight. All right, so Star Trek the Motion Picture came out in '79. It was ambitious, it was serious, it was actually more of a science fiction story. Visuals were impressive. It reintroduced the original crew and treated the Enterprise as an almost religious awe. The movie has its defenders, but it also was slow and distant, and it has a lot of detractors. Now, Jill, I was growing up at the time. I was like 3 years old when this came out. My brother was just born right when it came out, and the cool thing is my parents had the record, and on the back of the record it had all the aliens, all the different alien species that they were going to show in this one, but they decided to leave them out. But I got to hear the great score as part of my first exposure to Star Trek was that, and then going to see this motion picture with my dad was interesting. But yeah, thoughts on Star Trek the motion picture?
Yeah, my first time watching it, I did not like it. I thought it was too slow. I was like, "Oh, what are they doing? Just staring at this anomaly? Okay, okay, it's one of our old crafts that was combined with the machine planet. What's going on here?" But now, when I've watched the different edits, when we moved toward from theatrical to the director's cut, and then the director's edition is the best one. The director's
Mhm.
edition completely
Yes.
radically changes everything and makes this more of a Spock story, which is the way it should be and the way the director wanted it to begin with. And it is essential to Spock's backstory to have gone through this Kolinar and to decide that that's not what he really wants, that he will control his emotion. He'll continue to be Spock, but he will appreciate the underlying emotions that he has to control rather than banishing them to some realm in his body where he cannot reach them as easily. And so, yes, he makes the choice to continue to be Spock, and it's great. So some people say, "Oh, they did this with the Changeling," but this is a little different because with the Changeling, it was just a straight machine. This is my creator, and I want the creator, and otherwise sanitize everything, sterilize. But for V'ger was a little different because V'ger's out there to explore, to gather
Mhm.
data, and that is what Voyager was sent out to do to begin with, and that gets combined with the intelligence of the machine world, and it becomes something more too when it combines with the Decker unit.
Mhm.
And, yeah, yeah, learn all that is learnable.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are a couple things on in this that I've known. Um, First off, one of my favorite scenes is Captain. There's a person that refused to be transported up. Please come to the transporter room. It's basically McCoy refusing to be beamed aboard, and you know his is talking about being drafted, and he's like, "You did this," and then he mentions that the chapel is now a doctor, and he mentions, "I bet they've redone all of sick bay. I know engineers; they like to change everything." It's just great. That just whole
Yeah,
scene where McCoy comes on
the
the
whole
ship
s
is
yeah, we could pretty much just
fantastic.
say, well, might as well also say, "Why is any object we don't understand
A
always
thing,
called a thing?"
yes. Damn it, Bones, I need you. But yeah, I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes. So apparently, a couple things that I've read about this, I don't know if they're 100% true or not, but originally there was going to be a battle towards the end where the Klingon ships that went into V'ger come back out, and the Enterprise was originally, from what I read, supposed to separate in the saucer section and be able to fight the Klingon ships. They decided to completely scrap that, which it would have been interesting, but Roddenberry said it wasn't that time. The other thought originally with Deckard and Ilea were that they were going to go on and become the next generation crew, and they were already planning a next generation even back then. And their character types got changed to Riker and Troy.
That's absolutely true. That is a fact. That's not hearsay at all because they were first making the phase 2, which included those characters,
Mhm.
and instead everything just got all the production stuff and designs and everything got repurposed for this movie, including those characters who yes, became Riker and Troy. When we get to the next generation, and I know we're still not talking about Star Trek 4 yet, but the reason we have the next generation is because Star Trek 4 was such a success.
Yes, it absolutely is. And then the other theory that some people have had, now this was never confirmed. This has always been a fan theory. The fan theory was that the Borg had sent V'ger back, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I always thought that was kind of cool if you kind of threw that in there, but
That's
I don't
a
know.
after the fact theory. That's fan fiction,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Absolutely. Absolutely
headcanon.
fan theory. But
When you're talking about something that gets created later and it affecting something from the past,
mhm.
that's definitely something you've gotta you can write a novel about it. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. All right. Let's get through these next two awesome movies. So, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. I know we covered it on my channel before. Um, it's my favorite Star Trek movie of the original series. This movie had a completely different tone, more militaristic, more of a two submarines fighting each other, and just a fantastic villain. Thoughts on Wrath of Khan?
And similar to Balance of Terror, this also takes, the note that we're the Navy in space, and the submarine battle, is extremely exemplified in this movie, as well as, a villain who comes from a previous episode, so this is a great continuity in Star Trek II. Of course, when you say great continuity in Star Trek 2, what does everybody think of? It is they do think of that bit of controversy where somehow Khan knows Chekhov, even though Chekhov was not in the season 1 of Star Trek. But I like the theory that he was there. He just wasn't a bridge crew yet. He was a lower decks crew at that point because he was
Mhm.
a kid.
Yeah, I love
And
that. Chekhov. I never forget a face. Wait a minute. You never met him.
yeah, and Walter Koenig knew that, and he was like, "Wait, I'm not going to say anything. I want to be in the scene." Of course, and it let him. And of course, Walter Koenig had to do his signature quote, which is of course screaming. Everybody has like some kind of thing they say. He says, "Ah."
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, there's a theme of growing older too in this movie that's very subtle but nice and good.
Yep. Oh, I love it. And it's about the youth and kind of the fountain of youth in a way. And there were so many rewrites and so many different ways that we're going to do this movie. See my previous video on this. Of course, Ricardo Montalban. Yes, Jill, that is his chest. Um,
It
but
is real and it is spectacular.
yeah. Seinfeld. But yeah, I mean, it just what a villain to pick. I mean, basically the person who they got to rewrite all the scripts for this wasn't as familiar with Star Trek, and so he watched all the episodes and he was going to pick a villain, and he picked Khan out of all the villains in Star Trek to do it. And I thought this was
Yeah.
brilliantly done.
Yeah, Harv Bennett is just
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, he's a really good guy for that. And that's what I'm hoping, not to derail too much. That's what I'm hoping for Star Trek now. It is being created by people who have never really made a sci-fi movie, but they made some good stuff. And so maybe with their talent, they may realize that they need to learn some sci-fi and watch some Star Trek. So
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't really listen to them at Comic-Con. I need to go back and see what they say to get a little bit of hope that they're gonna be at least if they're at least 50% as dedicated as Harv Bennett, we will we might get something pretty good.
Yeah. It's crazy. But this is such a good movie. And then we get to Star Trek 3, which you and I covered on my channel, Search for Spock, which at the end of 2, Spock dies. And really, 2, 3, and 4, a lot of people consider them a trilogy onto themselves. But I love Star Trek 3. It's a shorter movie, but I think it has good heart and good purpose. It talks about the needs of the many outweigh the few, and how friendship is so important, and how important Spock was to everybody.
Well, and this one flips that message on its head because, of
Mhm.
course, in 2, Spock is saying the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few because that is Vulcan philosophy, that is what he believes in. But then you've got the human crew mostly, and they decided to flip that. The needs of the one is more important here, and we are going to save Spock and deal with this Klingon who wants the Genesis device. And yeah, so there's that family element. We've got to save Spock, and you have to. When you when you bring Star Trek back after killing Spock, you can't have Star Trek without Spock. So they got to go find him. And
Yep.
so the answer is it's a bit of a spoiler in the title. Yeah, we're gonna search for Spock, but you're pretty sure you're gonna find him.
Yep. And
And
this leads us to our movie that we're going to discuss. Let me
well,
kill these
and
slides. Go ahead.
we've mentioned the death in Wrath of Khan. The big death in Search for Spock, of course, is the Enterprise,
Yep.
and
The
that's
Enterprise
important.
dies.
And
And
and if we're leading into Star Trek 4, we also have to mention that with that death, they pick up another ship, the Klingon ship. So that's where they are now.
yep. Yeah, so at the beginning of the 4th film, the crew is living in exile on Vulcan. And there's actually a comic book that came out a couple of years ago that deals with a couple of missions and a couple of things that they did during that time in exile on Vulcan, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if you've heard about it, or if anybody knows about it. Have you heard of the comic book? Or
Have not. I should read more ancillary material, but I have not done.
yeah, it's kind of cool. It's not official canon, I don't think, but it's kind of
That's
cool
okay.
to think about it.
Well, considering what official canon is now, I'd rather read comics and books, so that makes more sense.
Me too. All right, so Spock is recovering. Kirk and others know they must return to Earth and face the consequences of their action. But before they can arrive, we get a probe, and let's talk about the making of it before we jump in and give you some slides. So, Leonard Nimoy directed it. The filmmakers understood that after death, grief, destruction, and sacrifice in the previous two movies, the audience needed a different tone, and the results were interesting. They have a more comedic adventure that still felt like Star Trek, which I don't think was easy to do. So, Jill, what are your thoughts on a comedic turn that they made with this movie?
Well, that's an incredible part of this movie because some of my favorite stories are fish out of water stories, and that is a huge part of this where are normally so Starfleet is full of the best, the brightest, but they're from the 23rd century. Throw them in the 20th century, and things aren't quite the same, and so they've got to learn how to navigate the streets of California and San Francisco. And it does end up with some comedic effects, maybe influencing later some of the comedy with Data not quite understanding what it is to be human. In this case, they don't quite understand how to be in this part of the century, but they still figure it out. And it's very much the Christmas present of the trilogy, what people consider the trilogy, the great trilogy of Star Trek 2, 3, and 4. You end with this one, and it's just a lot of fun, and it has a good message about the environment and possibly even increase the whale population. And yeah, no, the comedy is great. It still makes me laugh every time it's brought up.
The other aspect of this movie, making it more lighthearted, I think it had a more mass appeal than your usual Star Trek movie. And this movie did really well at the box office because of that mass appeal. And it came out during the holidays. But I remember going to see it, and there were people that were not necessarily Star Trek fans, but they heard about the message of this movie. And it's kind of its own self-contained movie in a way because it gives you an idea of where they are at the beginning. But it really has just a broader appeal. It's not really You're not really dealing with as much quote unquote Trek type stuff as you would because they're going back in time to our time at that time. So
Well, and the funny thing about that is that it is the most true to Star Trek, even though they might not be hanging out with the other alien races except for whoever made that whale probe. But
mhm.
but yeah, no, this is an extremely Star Trek movie because it is so human and because it is about communication, much like the Horta. We couldn't communicate with the Horta, and we can't communicate with this probe. And so what do? We got to figure out who it is. And even Spock says there's, you know, why do humans always think that it's always all about them? He doesn't say it like that, but it's a paraphrase of that, and it turns out to be the whales and everything, and they put the puzzle together, so it's 100% Star Trek, but I could see how someone who doesn't know Star Trek can go into this and find it still fun to watch because it does have more things that they can relate with, like a annoying person playing loud music on a bus.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna see that. Yeah, Michael Beacom says you could take people who didn't know Trek and they could still enjoy it. And then Sigvaldus says, "Doctor gave me a pill and I grew a new kidney." With the old lady waiting for
Yes, that was
dialysis.
so beautiful. No,
That's
and that
awesome.
is what is more Star Trek than that? Inspiring medicine, I wonder how many people became doctors because they thought maybe one day they could make a pill to grow a kidney.
Yep.
We're
So
still working on that.
So yeah, I thought it was a good creative risk, and I thought they did a good job. But really, I want to get the gist of this. And your question is brilliant for this. But you got a probe here, but the probe is not necessarily evil. Kind of the evil is humanity and what humanity's lost. But you had an interesting question about this: is uh, if we don't have a villain, how does that change the story? Or do you want to word it better than I did?
Oh, you got it exactly right, and this is the thing that goes all throughout Star Trek, where you've got conflict from maybe an antagonist who is not necessarily evil. And so this probe is not evil whatsoever. It doesn't realize that what it's doing is destroying anything. In fact, we're not quite sure what its capabilities are on that front and how it's programmed to deal with whatever is in its way. It's just that it's come to Earth. It wants to check in on the Earthlings that it talked to a while back, and those Earthlings happen to be whales. But since they can't find any, they're just, like, bombarding all of the surrounding space with all of this energy and communications. They're knocking out the communications of Earth, they're knocking out the power of all the starships, causing all sort of weather turmoil on the planet, and just, and if it kept it up, if it kept looking for those wells indefinitely without an answer, we you know, humanity would be in danger with the sun being blocked from all the cloud coverage and all everything. So it was a worldwide threat without having to be evil. And another point is that we don't have any phaser fire. Well, there is one phaser fire, but it's not directed at a human. It is used to burn a door to lock all the doctors in a room so they don't interfere with the rescue of Chekhov.
Yeah. It's interesting how you really don't have you have a movie that doesn't really set up a villain. It sets up a probe that's really trying to make sure that whatever species of whale still survived, which is interesting and fascinating. And I applaud them for that. I think it's unique, and I don't think it takes away from the story. I think the story is fantastic on its own. You know, so
Definitely. There's just so much. Every second of this movie is important to me. So,
yeah,
and yeah.
go ahead. All right, so let me bring up the slides for this movie, and I think the first slide for it is one of the most important slides that any Trek movie has ever had to have. Star Trek was based a lot on NASA and real space exploration, and this movie came out in 1986, and they decided to add this to the beginning of the movie because people were still hurting from it. Um, the cast and crew of Star Trek wished to dedicate this film to the men and women of the Spaceship Challenger, whose courageous spirit shall live in the 23rd century and beyond. And yeah, I get choked up reading that every time and seeing it because as a kid, I remember vividly the Challenger disaster. And part of it was because there was supposed to be the first teacher in space was supposed to go up, and it was supposed to be very educational. We were supposed to really not only expand space exploration, but they were starting to develop, space station, and they were going to add educational type stuff to space exploration. That's where we're going to go, and all of that kind of got put on hold after this accident happened. So I don't know. You're probably
That's
too young to remember
understandable.
Challenger, but
I was.
man,
I was only a month old.
yeah, it was just wow.
Oh, but I did know about the Columbia, which happened later, and it was just as tragic.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And Michael Beacom says Nichelle Nichols was hurt by it because it championed recruiting women to the space program, teacher in space, and
yes,
what happened there. So I'm so glad they dedicated it to them. So space is for the brave and the bold, and unfortunately, tragedies like this and several others that we've witnessed in our space program have happened. And my heart goes out to the families and the people that mourn those losses. But I still think space travel is in our future. I still think we can reach Mars, hopefully within my lifetime. So I'm hoping for the best. So
it's dangerous, but it's something that moves humanity forward. Um, Risk is their business.
Yep, risk is our business. By the way, one thing I love about Star Trek, and especially the beginning, as I always love their backgrounds, and when they put the title up, along with the music. The score is just always amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely agreed.
All right. So let me bring up a couple other things. By the way, I when I was doing some of these shots for these are the same slides that I used in Pop Culture Breakdown. So just so you guys know, I get a reuse out of them since I do them, and I just love space slides as well.
Although some people don't like the soundtrack to this movie, they like it. It's
Really?
got like a real. Some people say it's like Christmassy, and it's like, yeah, that's why I like it because we're on Earth, so it makes sense that the music is a little more grounded when we're there.
Mm-hmm. And basically, at the beginning of the movie, the other thing about it is that you have this whole thing where they've got to go face their consequences, and you've got kind of a trial before they get a chance to come back home and face the consequences of their action, which is interesting how this kind of plays out with the Klingons accusing, the Federation of kind of universal Armageddon based on that. And, Sarek is the one defending the crew.
Yeah, that's really good of him to do that while they're not there to defend themselves. He does do that, but of course the Klingon ambassador doesn't appreciate that.
Yeah, and we'll see him later on. I think he does appear again in 6, right?
That's right, he does definitely.
So, but anyway, it sets up well. I mean, I love the shot of Vulcan, such an iconic, beautiful shot. And then we've got the Klingon ship, which
the HMS Bounty.
HMS Bounty, which is just hilarious and great. And then we see our crew getting set to board.
They're complaining. Yeah, they're complaining about the Klingon ship, that it's like a flea trap, or I guess this is McCoy.
Yeah.
He
They are complaining about it. Yeah, it did come out at Christmas time. So, yeah. So, and then I love kind of how Spock has to kind of change in this. And I think this is an underlying theme that we don't necessarily discuss. How do you feel is the question he gets. And I think this also is kind of Spock going through more of his change than anything else in this movie.
And his mom is there to guide him in this particular question because he can answer all the science questions, all the history, philosophy, that's easy. But this one throws him off.
Yeah, how do you feel? So
yeah, he's got to get it back in touch with that human side. Bit of Star Trek, the motion picture coming back, because he did it before, but now he's a little different now. So he's got to do that. He's got to go through that again.
Yep. So we get him, and then we find out about the probe. And it's interesting how we see a couple of other ships and a couple other crew. And there's the probe, which I think is just really cool. And there's Starfleet Command with the president. And then we get one of the last views of Saavik, which was pretty cool. Do you want to comment on Saavik's character?
Oh, sure. Well, of course, we've now got Robin Curtis playing Saavik instead of Kirstie Alley. Yep. And she's more of a Vulcan, where Kirstie Alley was almost half Romulan, half Vulcan, which makes these two characters decidedly different, even though they're the same character. And of course, everybody likes to talk about the fact that she was almost supposed to be pregnant with Spock's baby, but they ended up taking that out.
Yeah, that and the other thing that is interesting, and when we ever get to this, I'll tell you guys the full story. But did you know, Jill, that it was originally supposed to be Saavik and not Valeris in Star Trek 6?
Yes, I did. I did know that. It was mostly Gene Roddenberry influencing that, because he didn't want Savick to become a character who betrays a he didn't want that from her for her to be a seemingly corrupt character.
Yeah, which is interesting. So then if this, Kirk and Spock decides to go back with them, even though he didn't have to. And I do, here's what I love about this is this movie shows you, how vast that shot is. It has the light and kind of the shadows instead of the brown and the cold and the other stuff that we see with the newer Trek and just as bad as it is, but also in movies today, you get good shots like this where you have color and you have light and you have it kind of contrast it. What are your thoughts? I think
It's
cinematography was much
beautiful.
better back
It's
then.
beautiful, and that and the paintings that they used with it and the lighting and
Mhm.
everything. Yes, absolutely gorgeous for sure.
Yeah, so much better back then. So
Yeah, the world needs more matte paintings. Get on it.
yes, yeah, and then we have more of the probe, and then I think Uhura plays a key role here because she kind of communicates with Starfleet Command, kind of helps them to decipher a few things, and basically, they find out that it's humpback whales, that the signal is humpback whales, and there are no humpback whales uh, in the world at that time. So human decisions have consequences for centuries later, and intelligence may exist in other forms that humans fail to understand, and we discussed kind of that. But it's just interesting that you know what we find out is we find out that there's a problem, and the solution to the problem is not necessarily dealing with uh, what could appear to be kind of a villainous probe. It's finding a way to communicate with the probe, and that's getting whales. And the only way to get them is to go back into the 20th century.
Yeah, and meanwhile, during all these scenes, as you mentioned the humor, McCoy, every line he says is hilarious. So that's always good because, of course, the idea of just going back in time to get some whales to talk to the probe and it figure out what to do with it, tell it to what to do with itself. It's great.
Yep. And then the asking Scotty, can we fit them in here? So, but then they land in
Mhm.
San Francisco, and there's a little bit of a problem that Spock might have, right?
Yeah, yeah. People don't know what Vulcans are, so he has to he has to put the bandana on. He uses his robe to make that, and so he kind of looks like he's about to jazzercise.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other aspect of it is that uh, it kind of comes back to City on the Edge of Forever, where he puts on that cap to cover his ears. So
True story. Very good parallel there.
yeah. Um, so Spock's calculations and Kirk's explanation of time travel, they go around the sun, they shoot around the sun, which they had done in another episode in Star Trek, which is cool.
Yeah, tomorrow's yesterday is where that first shows up.
Mhm. And so they land in San Francisco. He realizes what's going on, and it's kind of interesting how they interact with the people of the day. And you get the famous "double dumbass on you," line right here, which is funny. And they're figuring out how to navigate and find the whales in here, which I think is hilarious.
Definitely. And how they're just like mingling around. It's almost like they're definitely out of place.
Yep, and he gives them a little bit of money and divides them up into groups.
Mhm, yeah, he sells his birthday present because he knows he's gonna get it back later.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the exact change problem is funny. And then they see the bus. George and Gracie have a whale of a good time. And you mentioned you had like a T-shirt that you used to have for your George and
Oh,
Gracie, right?
yeah, I do. I do. Okay. I can step away just for a minute.
Okay. And Spock has his issues with the so-called colorful language as well. Pardon me. Sorry about that. Another missed opportunity. Uhura should have more input on figuring out the signals. That's her specialty. Yeah, absolutely. It made more sense to Savick in 6 if you read the second, third movie novelizations. Yeah, it was interesting. So SP4H, let me tell you guys just a side story about that. So I rode the bus to school. It was like I was like in 8th grade at the time, and one of the kids on the bus said, "Hey, I've got the script for the new Star Trek movie. I got it at this convention." And this was like 6 or 7 months before the movie was scheduled to come out. And I'm like, "Oh, really? What the heck?" And so he brings it to school the next day. He gives it to me, loans it to me, and it's a script, and it's got Brad's in it. Like it's like 3-hole punch, but it's got Brad's in it. And so I look at it and I start reading it, and I take it home to my dad. And my dad looks at it and he's like, "Holy crap, this is real." And so I got the script for Star Trek 6 and got to read Star Trek 6 or 7 months before the movie came out. And in that script, it originally had Savick. So just so you guys know. But yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, Jill, are you back with you said you got the t-shirt for it? Oh, no, you're not back yet. Okay.
Oh my God! You could hear all of that chaos that just happened. I am so sorry.
Just
I
a little
couldn't
bit.
find
No
the
big
shirt.
deal. Yeah.
But no, I'm sorry, I couldn't find the shirt. Sorry.
Oh, you couldn't find it. Okay, never mind. SP4H says, "Imagine if they landed in 2026 San Francisco." Oh my God, I don't even want to know. But I love how they find the yellow pages here. I think that's underappreciated.
But it's around this point in the movie where they were supposed to have, I think it was around this point where they were supposed to have the ancestor of Sulu show up. And
Yeah.
but the kid, he just didn't cooperate.
Yep. And then we have the infamous scene with the guy on the with the jam box. And then Spock deals with him, human
The punk on the
relations.
bus. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves that. And it was a song created by Kirk Thatcher because it was just they didn't want to shell out the money to buy a real punk song. I don't know why. Like, how expensive is a punk song? I wouldn't think it's that expensive. But anyway, I love that he wrote it himself, and it's just a basically a parody of all punk rock music. I hate you, and it's about nuclear weapons and everything, and that is great because that ties in with the message of this is during the Cold War, and that's part of the theme of the movie too.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome, and I've seen this guy at conventions and stuff, and I haven't talked to him, but apparently he's very approachable and very very cool. He's just very appreciative for the role that he got to play in this movie, and then Spock too, yammering applause. But anyway, Spock learning the language and all this lighthearted comedy, but it still moves the story along. So you're amused at the same time as you're going on this adventure, and I think that's what's great about it. And then we were introduced to the lovely Doctor. So thoughts on her character, Jillian?
Jillian, yes. And this is not my favorite movie just because there's a main character named Jillian in it. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm with the J. She's with the G. She's pretty awesome, of course. And Catherine Hicks actually studied Wales to help her prepare for this role. And it was okay that she didn't know Star Trek because she's from another time, and of course she's not going to know about outer space in the future. So that actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And I think that the jokes work because you understand the fish out of water kind of joke that overrides this. Um, I still love the line. In the '60s, he did too much LDS,
LDS.
yeah, or DLS, and he gets the
Yeah, no, yeah,
LSD.
it's a,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's right. He was in Berkeley, so that
yeah,
explains everything.
yeah, yeah. So there we see the whales, which is great. Um,
Maybe that man is singing to him.
yeah, yes, maybe Spock jumps in and attempting to communicate, which is just awesome. Um,
Right.
you know, it's just I think it's one of the funniest things, and he just goes off on him and just, what makes you think you do that? you know,
Well, and
uh,
people were actually really angry at this film because they thought that we were, hanging around with humpback whales and swimming with them, and it was all really incredible animatronic robot work.
yeah, it wasn't real. They weren't real.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's a little bit of footage of real humpback whales, but at no point do they get too close in a bad way.
yeah, and I love Leonard. I love Spock's line. They aren't the hell your whales.
That is a great thing, definitely.
That and
They
the
they
other thing
they,
that
they like you very much, but they
yeah, they
aren't the
like
hell of your mouth.
and this is a great shot also with the Golden Gate Bridge right there, them walking. And then
Mm.
we got Uhura and Chekhov looking for nuclear power because they've got to get nuclear power to be able to get back. Um, I I don't think we're there yet with Scotty and McCoy, but searching for nuclear power, and then they find, guess what ship did they find? The aircraft carrier, the
Enterprise, at least within the scope of the fictional narrative. In reality, they could only get the USS Ranger.
yeah, yep. But still, it's a great constellation, which I thought was
It's,
interesting.
it is beautiful. Yeah, really well done.
Yeah.
And great,
Um,
and great. This movie is really great for giving everybody something to do
yep.
in their
And
life.
then we have the line here that Sigvaldus, Gracie is pregnant.
Yeah, and that makes her pump the brakes. That-
Yeah, she puts, how the hell do you know that? She told me. So, um, and then the funny thing about it also is you mentioned that Sulu was supposed to go off with his ancestor and try and get the helicopter, and we missed that part of it because it was cut. But you have McCoy and Scotty going into the engineering to try and figure out how they're gonna, put the whales in there, and then they get come up with the idea of transparent aluminum. And I love this scene. Uh, Hello, computer, which is just great.
yes. Why don't you use a keyboard?
The keyboard, and then he's punching with like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, chicken scratch, and he puts up all of the everything you need. How quaint.
yeah. So and then I like the beer and pizza or
Mm,
the beer and calzone.
yeah, the Michelob.
Yeah,
I don't
Michelob.
know if it was product placement, but yeah, it makes me
I
want a
think it was
Michelob.
product placement because I think. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I don't know. I don't remember, but I think didn't Shatner do a Michelob commercial?
Did he? I need to see
I
this.
think
Somebody in the
so.
chat, let me know.
I'm not sure, but
That's
I think
funny.
so. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's the point where you have to, if you didn't love her before, though, that when she says, "Do you trust me?" and ordered a pizza. Yeah.
yeah,
Really adorable.
yeah, that's awesome. I love that too.
Don't
Um,
tell me you're from outer space.
no, I'm from Iowa. I only work in outer space.
Yes. And so that's when she actually gets, him to tell some of the truth. And why do you hang out with that ditzy guy? I do get a little offended that she calls Spock ditzy. Um,
Yeah,
and
that
why
one's
does he call you Admiral? It's great. It's great. Everything's compounding, and she has such a memory that you can't really trick her. So eventually, yeah, he does say, "I gotta sneeze."
Yeah, I mean, she's great. And I love this scene. It's just it's a lot of fun. Um, let me hang on. Where are my slides going? There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. He has to explain why he needs the whales because they're her whales. Well, of course, he, Spock says they're not, but
And
she very much takes care of them.
and he tells her he'll be right here in the park. You know, so
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. She doesn't know about the ship, of course, because it's cloaked.
yeah. People bag on Shatner's acting, but when he takes that first sip of beer,
Yeah, he's never tasted beer before. That's hilarious.
really? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
That's right. That's
well,
right.
not
That's right.
Shatner,
Yeah,
Captain
but
Kirk.
Kirk. Yeah,
Excuse me.
Captain Kirk. Shatner never tasted beer. What? Uh, transparent aluminum actually exists nowadays. That's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
nowadays it does, but it's too expensive and impractical to actually put into practice, but it definitely exists.
Yep. And I wish we could go through these slides a little bit faster, but my computer for some reason is not. And then figuring out how they're going to do the whales. And then the nuclear vessel, basically they're draining the energy so they can recharge the dilithium crystals. And we have the problem with Chekhov. So Uhura goes with the thing, and Scotty, now would be a good time. Which I think is awesome.
Yeah, this is the only Star Trek movie with the R word in it. Of course, he's a Rusky or a R word or something.
Yeah.
I always remember that part. And Chekhov tries to fire the phaser, but of course it doesn't work.
Yep.
And he leaves it behind. That's the
Yes, he
curious part.
does. And I love this part where you're showing the helicopter that Sulu gets and how they're bringing the
And plexiglass.
plexiglass. Yeah. And then she gets beamed aboard.
Yeah, yeah. She tricks him. She tricks him, and
Yeah.
she gets aboard the ship.
Yeah. And then they find out they have to rescue Chekhov. And that's one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. It's a human thing to do, and it's
Yeah.
a human thing to do. I've seen this movie 100 times, but I didn't pass up a chance to rewatch it today. So, and of course, it's a human thing to do is actually in when they when everything's all trippy and it's all psychedelic and they're going backwards in time. A couple of the lines that are later in the movie are said in that moment, including that one.
So, yeah, it's hilarious. They find out he's in the hospital. Uh, this is as Sigvalis has said, dialysis. Are we living in the Stone Ages? And he gives her a pill. Doctor gave me a
Yeah.
pill like a new kidney.
Only problem is he says, if you have any more problems, just call me. How did he expect that to happen?
Yeah. And he's like, my God, man, you're gonna slice open his head. Which is interesting. The practice of medicine back then, compared to now, even compared to today, is totally different.
Yeah, it was all very medieval to him, the way
Yeah.
that things were done. And that also is parallel to City on the Edge of Forever, where he is talking about people sewing up humans with cat guts and things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then I love Chekhov's response: rank admiral.
Yeah, he gave himself a promotion. And he's clearly got a concussion.
Yeah, I forgot that I didn't get the picture of him locking, firing the phaser and locking the doctors in that room. They get him out, and then they have the
Yeah.
chase and that, which is just funny. And then you have the lady with the dialysis again.
Oh, the doctor gave me a pill and I couldn't eat kidney. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then he basically thanks her, and they're going to get the whales. And then she's like, surprise.
Oh, that's where she tricks him. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and so now it becomes we've got Chekhov, we've got all that, everything's back. There's not like a conventional battle or anything like that. It's all getting the crew back, and
Well, yeah, it's all about getting to the whales because the whales have been displaced and they're no longer at the institute. They were moved and
mhm.
and so they've got to they got to go there and save the whales from the whaling ship that's going to show up soon.
Yep. And then we have more Kirk, McCoy, and Spock, where he's got to instead of making precise calculations, he's got to make his best guess, which is great. So, see George and Gracie, and then can you imagine you're on a fishing boat and this thing appears?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's like boom, and then they
Well,
beam George and Gracie aboard. There be whales on board.
yeah, that's Scotty's line. That's fun. There be whales here.
So, and then making the calculation to get back, which is cool. And I don't know how accurate shooting around the sun would be, but I mean, they did it twice in this, and it's great. And
And
then,
other sci-fi afterwards also copied this, and they use it also. And slingshotting around the sun is a thing.
yep, which is great. And then they crash land in San Francisco Bay.
Yeah, because of the probe. Because the probe makes a crash.
Yeah, trying to get out, trying to release the whales, and it's really cool. Captain Kirk just holds his breath for a long time.
Yeah,
there.
and you know, people make fun of his hair all the time. He's swimming. His hair looks great.
Yep. So he releases the whales, and everybody ends up there. And it was interesting that they filmed all this in a tank, which is kind of cool. But and then you see the whales, and the whales come, and they're able to communicate with the probe, which is just awesome.
Yes, and there were some ideas to actually provide subtitles, and I'm so glad they didn't do that because some of the mystery makes things a lot more magical.
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, you're 100% right, and I think that's fantastic because I think when you have species like that communicate, you can already tell what it's really about. It's really about are you here? Are you safe? That kind of type stuff, and that's great. And then just having rescued the planet is great. Then we see the shuttle coming to pick him up, and we see George and Grace. I think that's a beautiful shot. I like that shot. What do you think?
Definitely. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I love it too.
And see, that's another thing that we're missing today. Don't get enough of these types of shots. And then they got to go face the trial, and basically, they're essentially
Kirk gets demoted.
Yeah, Kirk gets demoted. And instead of being able to have a relationship with her, we find out that she's going to be a science officer.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. How cool would that be? You go travel to the future and you get to be a science officer. So,
yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah, hopefully she did well. We don't see her ever again.
yep.
Even though she says, see you around the galaxy.
Yeah, see you around the galaxy, which is awesome. And then, Spock and his father have one last moment where I love it. And he tell my mother I feel fine.
And this is a great arc between them as a father and son. And because Sarek didn't really support him being in Starfleet at first. And so now he says he says something nice about oh right. As I recall, I opposed your enlistment in Starfleet. It is possible that judgment was incorrect. Your associates are people of good character, and Spock corrects this. They are my friends.
Which I think
you
is
got
awesome.
The rest of it. Mm-hmm.
And it says so much about friendship and how important friendship is to Star Trek. Did they ever return the stolen bird of prey? I don't know. I don't know if they did. So
In this point in Star Trek, that's highly unlikely. It got taken apart by Starfleet officers and studied for its technologies and stored away. Or I don't know. Maybe they did give it back, and maybe well, after they studied it, they put it back together and gave it back. It's like you didn't
yep,
put it back right.
yep, and they're given a new ship, which is interesting,
Yeah, they think they're gonna get some other ship or whatever, and
or the
then
Excelsior,
there's
something like.
this is revealed.
Yep, NCC 1701-A. So we got the Enterprise A. So
Absolutely gorgeous ship.
yeah, I love that, and the interior. Look at how bright that is. Oh my gosh, look
Yeah,
at
you
how
can
awesome
see
that is.
things.
Yes.
Yeah, movies today, they don't want you to see stuff, but look at this, we can actually see things.
Yep, and the modern Star Trek with how dark they are versus how bright this is. I mean, it's just amazing. So, but I think that was my last slide for this. But I mean, it's incredible, and I love this movie because it takes it from a human point of view. It adds humor. It has a seriousness to it, but it has themes of you have the environmental themes, you have the themes of friendship, you have the themes of humanity, you have the themes of what is it what's important in our lives in our society that we need to preserve for future generations as well, which I think is great. I love those themes. What are your other thoughts about this being your favorite
What
movie?
you mentioned all of the important themes, but also part of, bringing Spock back together.
Hmm.
He has all his memories, but recovering and rediscovering himself as, and his friendships and a and all that was a journey that started in the last movie, and he's doing a lot better this time around when once he says, "Tell Amanda I'm fine." And so it's just wonderful. This is my favorite movie, and I gotta step away for a second. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Lies bulbs cost money, James Caserta. Yeah, they do. USS Titan got renamed US Enterprise G. Oh gosh. Ugh. But the humor
Oh, no,
makes
that's not an Enterprise, sorry.
yeah, Titan not getting named Enterprise. But um the discussion question that we had that we posed to you guys, and I think we already answered it, but is the Voyage Home the best Star Trek movie for introducing a non-fandom original crew? I think it's one way you could do it. Yeah, absolutely. I would probably go with some of the episodes of the original series, and I would have them watch 2, 3, and 4, and
Yeah.
6.
Yeah,
That's
just because during Christmas time I put this on, if nobody's paying attention to what the TV is doing, doesn't mean it should necessarily be the first thing, but it's not a bad introduction to Star Trek if, you pick a movie.
hmm yeah. And I would say as we kind of wrap up here, um, kind of wrapping both of these two together, and kind of I don't think we need to go into like all the different other series here, but I think the original the original series and Star Trek 4 are help define what Star Trek really is, and what Star Trek I think in today's society needs to get back to. And I think there's some key themes that we need to remind people about Star Trek so that we can make Star Trek great again. And that's the idea of exploration and scientific curiosity, optimism about humanity and the ability to improve, moral and philosophical questions, strong characters with friendship and a family, uh, political and social commentary that doesn't necessarily have to go into modern social political stuff, but can give overall hierarching themes about humanity as a whole. And then this diplomacy and understanding people and understanding situations before you act, as well as recognizing that there's an element of the unknown that we don't know, where we have to pause and stop and say, hey, how do we figure this out? How can we work together to figure this out? What do you think, Jill?
That would be a great first step. Also, don't recast everybody. We've done that before already. Let's have a new crew go on adventures, a new ship also. And that would be incredible. And of course, you've touched on all the points that make Star Trek important and everything that showing us the future that we want to have rather than warning us against the future that we are heading down. And so, a manual for good rather than a manual for what not to do. And unfortunately, sometimes we're looking at the wrong manual here. And it's great. I'm very happy that we made it here to the 60th anniversary. Even though Star Trek's been going through some bad stuff, that doesn't mean we can't have good Star Trek in the future. And a new series doesn't have to copy the original, even though that's always going to be the best. It's just it does need to go forward and move forward ahead of the Dominion War, hopefully, and definitely needs to be built around all of what you mentioned about compassion and working together towards a common goal of what humanity and all the other species in the Federation need.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Absolutely. All right, folks, as we wrap up the stream, Jill, what have you got coming up on your channel? Which I've heard you're back, YouTube fully monetized and everything, right?
That's true. Yes, YouTube decided to remonetize me because, well, I did a lot of work on my channel to make that a possibility, and it was tough because I think that the new rules are kind of silly, but I've done some things to ameliorate that, hopefully. Or maybe there was nothing wrong that I did and I would have got it back anyway. Who knows? But either way, I wasn't going to take any chances. I did what I thought was best. And yeah, on my channel I like to talk about science fiction and other genres too sometimes, but largely science fiction and Star Trek. And we have been celebrating the 60th anniversary all year since January. This party started for me at the beginning. I talked about all the bridge crew, and the one I'm talking about this month will be Gracie Whitney. And for the actual 60th anniversary next month, we're going to talk about all the rest of the crew that we didn't talk about throughout the year. All the side characters, Eddie Paskey and Bobby Clark and everybody, and it's gonna be good. Major Barrett, especially, and it'll
Yes. Oh,
be a
absolutely. And she
fun
was
and
very integral too. So,
mhm. Oh, for sure, in so many ways. She
mhm,
supported Gene right up to the end,
mhm.
and I also have my Twilight Zone on Tuesday, and on other Fridays, I'll cover some other movies and things. This month, we're gonna cover some it's Battleship Month, which is a tradition that got started last year, and Canadian Spider-Man said, "Isn't it Battleship Month?" And I was like, "Okay. Oh, wait, I guess I have to do this every year now." And so I'm gonna come up with some movies, which, battleship will mean, any battleships, but also aircraft character carriers and submarine movies.
Well, sounds like Das Boot might be in your future.
Maybe there are a lot to choose from, so this will be a good thing to do every year. Thank you for
Absolutely.
having me on to talk about my favorite movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for being here. Coming up on my channel, I'm off this week, so it's going to be a blast. It's Transformers week here. So tomorrow, I haven't decided on the exact time. I will let you guys know. It probably be in the evening, probably about 7 o'clock. I will have a live stream going over season 1 of Transformers. We'll do season 1 along with toys for season 1, the original toys, and then I'll show you some of my masterpiece collection for season 1. Tuesday night, we're going to do season 2. We're going to do the same things. Thursday night, because we've got Pop Culture Breakdown on Wednesday, Thursday night, we will do um, seasons 3 and 4 of Transformers, and yes, the toys and my masterpiece collection. Friday afternoon, I'm actually going to go to a con that's local here, Rebel Scum. And then Saturday is the 40th anniversary of Transformers the movie. So I will have a live stream on Saturday afternoon talking about Transformers the movie. So you're going to get your whole Transformers G1 fix with me this week on Rob Wright's Shanks Pop Culture. And then actually next Sunday, Heather will be back and we'll be going over Masters of the Air episodes 5 and 6. We're going to do 2 at a time to knock it out so that we can get to Great World War II movies. So that's what's going on. I know SP4H is already excited. Bowie, Grano, and Ninny Bomb. So should be pretty good. And then, guys, Pop Culture Breakdown on Wednesday night. The show is The Player. We're all going to give our Spider-Man reviews, and we'll see what else Doomcock has planned. But go to Overlord DVD's channel for that on Wednesday night. So, but thank you guys for coming. Please leave a like and subscribe and leave some comments later on. It helps with the algorithm. So, anything else? Any final parting shots? Anti-derivative Jill?
Yeah, I still have hope for the future. I'm seeing a little bit of not people who are not hopeful, and that is logical. It's logical to not be hopeful, but I think that Star Trek can make it through if the right people get involved to make it something good, and just throw Kurtzman Trek into some alternate timeline that we never have to talk about again.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I think if we can do that, we can build a new Trek. So, but thank you guys for being here. Certainly appreciate all the comments in the chat. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.